guys, welcome to this course. We will learn React from scratch. This course is for anyone who wants to learn building high-performance React app and to unleash the power of JavaScript with the help of React. So why React? React is fast, scalable, and simple. And as you can see, there are many large companies use React. So hopefully you enjoy this course and see you in the next video. Variable, which is var. But this way of creating variable have one problem. This is because it is not block scoping. It is easily affected by another code but without any errors. Let's take this as an example. We create a variable age is equal to 13. And then we set if this is true. Then we let another variable age is equal to 98. And then we print out the inside age. And then we print out the outside age. We may assume the outside age should be 13. However, you can see this is already affected by another declaration, which is here. But we may not notice because there is no error and the age already changed to 98. In ES6, we have two other declaration methods, which is let and also constant. Let's change the above to be let. And as you can see, since let is a block scoping method, so even though the age is 98 inside here, but the age is still keeping the same, is 13 at the outside. Now this time let's talk about constant. Constant is something that after you declare the variable, you cannot change the data type. For example, we let the constant user as an object, and then we set the user is equal to 13. It will have an error that it is a type error assignment to constant variable. But this does not mean that we cannot change the property. For example, we can add a name to the user. For example, user.name is equal to Mike. And then we try to print out the user. And you will see it contains the name Mike inside the object. We can also do it inside an array. For example, we create an array which already contains orange, and then you push another fruit which is apple, and then you print out the array. Now as you can see, the array contains two strings here. So this is the difference between var, let, and constant. This is a very simple switch case, and you may also usually use when you are using React, Vue.js, or Angular. And you can see these switch cases is that when you place an apple here, it will turn out a red color. And if you input a banana, it will turn out a yellow. And if you input something else, it will print out the other colors. It works fine. And the problem is that when you are using let instead of var, you may encounter this problem. It said the identifier color has already been declared. But what can you do? The problem is because let is block scoping. In order to deal with this problem, we have to add a bracket here. Now as you can see, the program is working fine again by adding the bracket at these two cases. We all know that if we want to print something in the console, we can use console.log and with the double quote like this. And if we want to combine the string with a variable, we can also do like this. We can also do this with single quote rather than double quote. But since there will be a conflict of using single quotes here, then we have to use a backslash here. But as you can see, even though you are using double quotes or a single quote, it may be very annoying because you have to think about whether you have to add a plus symbol here or whether you have to add a backslash. And now you can use the template literal like this. Instead of using single quotes or double quote, we are using the back tag. And then we do not need this. And also we do not need the backslash. Now we can add the variable directly here and also add the full stop. Now as you can see, it is more straightforward and you do not need to think about whether you need to add the backslash in between. Before, we usually write the function like this. Now with ES6 we can change to this. We do not need the function. Instead we use constant and then equal and then add an arrow here. If the function only have one line of code in return, we can also simplify. And delete the bracket and delete the return. And since there is only one parameter here, we can also delete the bracket. But make sure that if you have two parameters, you have to add a bracket. So since this only have one parameter, so now we can only just use the name here without the bracket. We can create class in JavaScript. For example, if we want to create a class dog, which has a property of weight and age, and also a method bark, we can do it like this. And we can create a new dot object puppy. Then you can see if we use puppy dot bark, it will have the results pop up that bark, which means it also has the method. The puppy also has the method bark. And then now we are going to create another class, which is the parent class animal. Which only has one method, which is eat. If we want the dot inherit the animal class, we can use extend this word. Now if we try to use puppy.eat, you can see the puppy now has the eat method, and it also gets the result of I am eating. These three dots is the spread operators. The spread operator is used to pull the value from an array or extract the properties from an object. For example, if we create an old array which contains the value of 1, 3, 5, and we also create a new array which contains 2 and 4. If we want to also add the value from the old array, we have to use the spread operator and then add the 2 and 4 behind, and then we try to print out the new array. Now you can see we contain all the 3 values from the old array and also the new values, which is 2 and 4. Let's take the object as an example. If the old object, which contains a name, which is Peter, and height is 175. Now, if the new object want to have the old object properties, we have to use the spread operator and then add the properties that we want to add. For example, we have age. Now, if we print out the new object, you can see it contains the name, height, and also the age. But if this is not the age, this is the height. For example, this is height and 180. It becomes update the values rather than adding the new properties. The spread operator not only applied on the array and object, it also can be used in the function. Now you can see there are ... arguments. This is used to when you do not sure how many arguments do you have, you can use ... For example, if we have one argument, one parameters, you can see it can print out the apple. And if we continue add another string, we should change it to I. It will print out the orange. And if we continue to add banana, it will also print out in the console. This is because when we're using ... arguments, each time we add a value, it will become an array. So we can for loop to loop through the values and print out in the console. Destructuring can be applied on both object and also the array. For example, we have the object person, which contains the first name, last name, age, and also eye color. We can type the syntax like this, and then we can then use the first name directly. And as you can see, it already popped out Alan. And if we want to also get the age, then we can add the age here. Also, it will pop up in the result. The advantage of this is we do not need to use person.age. You can use the age directly, because sometimes the object is a nested object, so you have to dot in order to get the value. By using the destructuring, you can now use the variable directly. Now let's take a look on the array. If we have the array of 1 and 2, we can use A and B to get the values. For example, if we just want to have the first value, we can use console.log A and already get the first value of the array. And if we have a very long array, we can just use the spread operator and then type the variable. Now you can get the value of the remaining element. Now if you just want to get the third value of the array, actually you do not need to type A and B in front of this. You can just leave the space, and then we can also get the third value, which is 3. So this is how to destructuring in array and also in the object. In this part, we are going to talk about primitive and reference. A variable can hold one of the two value types, which is primitive values or reference value. Primitive value is the value stored with aside by values, and the reference is the value stored with aside by reference. But what is the difference? Let's take an example. For example, now we are going to create a variable name, which is equal to Sam, and then we create another copy, which is equal to name. So now we are going to print out the result. This is not surprising because name copy is equal to name, but now we are going to change the name to another. For example, name now is equal to Mary. After the change of the name, we see the result is like this. Name is equal to Mary, but the name copy is still the same. This is because name copy will not be affected because of the change of the name. Let's take a look of the reference type. Now we create a user which only have the name properties, which is Mike. And then we create another copy. User copy is equal to user. Now again, we are going to print out the result. Again, you can see the result is as expected because user copy is equal to user. But now when we try to adjust the name of Mike become Mary, for example, user.name is equal to Mary. Now you can see, although user copy do not change, it just equal to user, it also will be changed because of the user name is changed to Mary. So what can we do if we really want to create a copy of user? We can use the spread operator. For example, instead of equal to user, we can change to ... user. And now you can see immediately, although the name of the user is changed, the name of the user copy will not be changed. So this is the difference of primitive type and the reference type, and how you really make a copy from an object. Here is a very simple project that only contains one HTML and also one script.js. So now we are going to use the script.js, so we have to add the script, and source is script.js. Since we need to tell our HTML that we are using modules, we need to add the type is equal to modules. Then we are going to create the first component. We name it as component1.js. And inside the component1.js, we create a variable is apple, which is equal to apple. And we are going to use export default. There are two types of export. One of them is like this, export default. And the other is export the constant directly. But first we are going to introduce export default apple. And if we want to import the component1 into the script.js, we have to use import. And since we just use export default, so we can name it as anything. You can use apple, or you can use app. And then we try to print out the result. We have to add back the single quote which we are missing. Now you can see it display the export default apple. So it implies that it can import the apple successfully by using export default. And now we are going to create another component, which is component2.js. And inside the component2, we are going to export two different constants. One is banana, and only store the text of banana. And the other is orange. Now we are going to import the banana and orange from component2.js. And since we are using the export constant, so we must use back the name that claimed here. So we are going to import banana and orange from component2.js. Now, if you take a look at the console, you can see it also can export the banana and also the orange. If at last you really want to change another name, for example, we do not like the banana, we change to banana, then we can also use another name. Now you can see it also displays the banana here, so we can export successfully because what we stored here is banana this path. So this is normal that it displays banana. This is just a variable. And also there is another method that we can export all the things from the component2.js. We can delete these things and then import all the same things as food. Now instead of using orange or banana, we are going to use fruit.banana and fruit.orange. We mark it such that we know that there are some changes. Now let's look at the result. You can see it also displays the banana and orange by using this method. So this is how the import and export work. Let's say we have an array like this, and if we want to get the values of each item, we can use for of loop. It will loop through the value and print out one by one. Now, if there is an food object, if we also want to get the key apple, orange, and banana by using the for of, it will get an error that food object is not iterable. So what can we do is, instead of using for of, we use for in. Now you will get the key of the foods object. So for me, because it is looped inside the food object, I memorize it as for in, and because array is a group of objects, so it is for of. Just make something that you feel makes sense. But how about if we really want to get the values instead of just the key, because we may need to have some calculation later. So now we can use the food object and put the key here. Now you can see you get the values of each item.